in Devon and treats waste from a catchment area well beyond the Exeter boundary. Incineration with energy recovery was environmentally preferable to disposing of waste to landfill. Diverting food waste as well as more plastic and glass waste away from energy recovery and towards recycling, which was the subject of a separate report to place Scrutiny Committee, would reduce net carbon emissions. This would free up capacity at the energy recovery facility to divert more of Devon's non-recycled waste away from the landfill, and that's going to be inserted into the minutes, isn't it?
And we also have another correction raised by Councillor Dumore, Chair, and that's minute 36 of the minutes of the 18th of June.
Yes, and we'll go through that.
Yes, and actually it's the first paragraph on page 15 of your papers in the last sentence, and a suggested wording of that.
Yes, okay, so on page 15 of the minutes on the 13th of June again, and the last item, we're going to change the correction to the minute is the last sentence is incorrect. It should read, Councillor Demore stated that the Council's approach in regard to building council houses to passive house standards should be commended. Is that's okay for everybody? Okay then, thank you. So now we're on to the, so do we now we have those amendments? Are those minutes agreed?
If members are happy with that, and we just have the last set of minutes, Chair, everyone's happy with
yes,
that.
okay. Okay, so thank you for doing that. There's no part 2 items, so we don't have to exclude people from the meeting then. And I think we're going to move to agenda item number 5, which is questions from the public under Standing Order 19. And I understand there's a few people that are wishing to do that then. Are you going to organise that, Sharon? Thank you.
I hope Rhiannon would mind coming to the table, and obviously I'm inviting Councillor Paul, Portfolio of City Family Development. And if you wish to, absolutely. We have a microphone, and if you would mind pressing that so that we can all hear you. And I think you've read the, if you don't mind, Chair, you've read the instructions, the criteria for asking a question. You put your question, which members have got on paper. You wish to read the whole of the preamble and the question. Councillor Paul will offer you a response, and then you have the opportunity to respond for up to 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Great. Okay, so I'll read my question now. With so many other pressing concerns, the Council might not have had the time so far to look into 5G and to consider that it is 5G that would be used for artificial intelligence, robots, virtual reality, driverless cars, automated factories, smart devices and home appliances, and that the urban street lighting of Exeter, with minimal further upgrading, can be enabled for future incorporation of wireless spectrum broadcast, and that according to MP Ben Bradshaw, there's a national target for most of the UK to be covered by a 5G signal by 2027, and that these apparent advances could lead to job losses, more addiction to virtual gaming and other forms of online entertainment, already considered to be a major mental health issue, more exposure to radiation as all our home appliances become wirelessly connected. Is the Council aware of the technological advancements which the telecommunications industries are marketing and promoting, and the negative social, psychological, physiological and emotional impacts it could have on the residents of Exeter? Can you, the councillors of ECC, please read and engage with the information provided at 5G Space Appeal and firemedical.org? Question: between now and the next scrutiny meeting in November, and would you please be willing to do your own research into 5G and wireless radiation prior to your scrutiny meeting in November? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fox.
Thank you, Chair. The official response would be that from a planning point of view, this would only be worthwhile if it could inform the Council's formal decisions on 5G related development requiring planning permission. Current government guidance states that provided operators submit a statement confirming compliance with International Commission on Non-Ionising Radiation Protection Guidelines, and implications for health cannot be used as a planning reason for refusal. On a personal level, I know, looking at my colleagues on the Scrutiny Committee, that they understand it's incumbent upon them to familiarise themselves with this information, as indeed I would.
Thank you very much. Do you wish to? Yes, please. Thank you for your response. And I'm asking you to, if you could please look at the issue of 5G beyond the rules imposed upon you, just as human beings who care about your families, your children, your husbands, your wives, your neighbours, your family, your community, because 5G is a very dangerous military-grade technology. And according to experts and scientists, high levels of radiation cause cancer, heart disease, diabetes, early onset Alzheimer's and dementia. It causes autism, it causes ADHD and irreversible DNA effects. It causes sperm damage and serious mental illness. It causes lack of sleep, tiredness, exhaustion, depression, anxiety, poor memory, lack of concentration, sensory problems with eyes and with ringing in the ears, and even suicidal tendencies. And when I first learnt about this and told a friend about it, she asked me, what did you do once you knew? And I wish to ask all of you here, please think of the people you love and you care about. Please read what scientists are saying. We've got so many scientists, we've got all the peer-reviewed studies. We can send in as many as you wish to read. There's no shortage, 10,000 of them. Please read some of them with your loved ones in your heart. And I ask you to please consider the question, what did you do once you knew?
Thank you very much for your question, and thank you for that response. And we can all see that you feel very passionately about
yes,
that.
once you read the studies, you will do it well.
We will be looking we will all be taking that seriously and looking into this matter much more closely. So thank you very much for your question. Thank you. Question number 2. Gabrielle Simmons.
Gabrielle Simmons, if you wouldn't mind coming forward to the table to ask your question.
No, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I have
yes.
a problem with my hearing.
Yes, well, thank you very much. And if you would like to read your preamble and ask your question, thank you.
Thank you. Please note that this question was submitted to District Council, to Devon County Council. The dangers of 5G are well documented, scientifically supported. Why is Devon County Council considering implementing a system which is untested, untrialed, without evidence of its safety? Although councillors are elected, actions are as important as this for the whole of humanity ought to be put to the public for decision. There is no going back once 5G is installed. The only outcome will be more sick people, more demand on the medical system, more deaths, more suffering. Do members of DCC and beyond, of course, i.e. members of Parliament, not have children and grandchildren wanting to ensure their safety, their safe future? I, for one, do not wish for antennas to be placed on every street light in my street or any other just to speed up Wi-Fi, or so it is claimed. I do not wish for my health or anyone else's to be put at risk deliberately. I view an uninformed installation of 5G as a crime against human rights. Question: why is it that Brussels, amongst other places, has barred 5G until further notice, demanding safety evidence? Can the Council assure the public, myself included, in writing, with evidence that 5G is safe? And will the Council declare itself responsible for all future claims, i.e. when people fall sick, without passing that on to other bodies? Is the Council prepared to have an unbiased view, listening to both sides, to enable it to make an informed choice for the good of humanity, rather than one controlled by money? I would like to draw the Council's attention to various websites. There are many more. I have listed them here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Coles, you're going to respond, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's there's an official response, and the official response would be that I need to refer you to the previous response that I made to the last question, because council planning decisions on the health implications of 5G development are constrained by national government guidance. Now, I also understand the frustration of saying that, because it feels like you're being bumped from the county council to the city council, who's actually responsible for it. And, it doesn't sound very good when we say it's not us, chief. But we are a district council, a small district council. We are not scientists. However, as I said earlier, I believe it is incumbent on my colleagues to familiarise themselves with as much information as possible. And on a personal level, I'm a father of 5, and I have 6 grandchildren, and I hold their future very dear, and I should be doing my research on it as well. So thank you for your question.
Thank you. May I respond? Councillors, unfortunately, the media appears to be under some control as to what is reported to the public. I had a personal experience questioning a so-called unbiased journalist about a 5G article on Devon Live. He sung its praises, obviously without having done any research on positive and negative effects. Needless to say, I have never had a response from him despite a second request. I fear that both government and the telecom industry have nothing positive to say about 5G, but are instead bulldozing ahead with its implementation. Councillors, I urge you not to believe me or anyone else who talks to you about 5G, but instead start by undertaking your own research, as this new and untested technology will affect everyone, no exceptions. I truly fear for the future of children and grandchildren. I have a number of links and documents, including an open letter from an ex-GP warning of the 5G dangers, which is summed up in one word: depopulation. How? By putting everyone, including you, into a 24/7 radiation bubble. You may ask how. Visualize 20,000 satellites in orbit, talking to every antennae on every streetlight, which in turn talks to your smart meter, should you be unfortunate enough to have had one installed, to your phone, your computers, baby monitor, Bluetooth, basically anything smart and cable-free. 5G will stick together your blood cells, increasing the risk of penetrating the blood-brain barrier, leading to Alzheimer's, but also, as it is radiation, 5G is seen as carcinogenic. It is particularly big risk to children whose brains are still developing, and just in case you are thinking this, I am not fear-mongering. I'm happy to share any documents and links and to discuss further. We cannot afford not to research and know the truth. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, and thank you again for something I can see you feel very passionately about, and for bringing it to the committee. Thank you. I think we have a third question now from William Wilson. Thank you, if you'd like to.
As a former medical scientist, I'm very worried about the health effects of 5G telecoms infrastructure. In a question put to Devon County Council regarding this, Councillor Roger Crode indicated this was a district council responsibility, and that he takes advice from Public Health England, who in turn follow the guidelines of the International Committee on Non-Ionising Radiation Protection, which I'll refer to as ICNIRP in the future because it's so long taking up my time. So ICNIRP do not protect the public's health because they absolutely refused to recognise the harmful non-thermal, i.e. biological effects of radio frequency radiation, despite thousands of peer-reviewed articles from many respected scientists spanning many years. 5G may be much more dangerous, in part because of the densification of mobile base stations required by this technology, its phased array antennae and very short wavelength. There have been no safety tests. For many years, Lloyd's of London and other insurers have refused to insure for illness caused by continuous long-term radio frequency radiation. And my question is, since the effects of 5G frequencies are unknown, untested, and uninsurable, will Exeter City Council adopt the precautionary principle and not proceed with the deployment of 5G infrastructure?
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. I'm going to ask Councillor Foles to respond again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The frustrating thing, William, is that the Council will not proceed with the deployment of 5G infrastructure only because this is not its role. Telecommunications infrastructure for mobile phones is provided by the telecommunications operators who are licensed by central government. And I say frustrating because it was only last year that we suddenly found telegraph poles springing up all over the city. And the City Council were not consulted about that because apparently those licensed people have permission to do whatever they liked. But I do know that the City Council and the scrutiny committees are not afraid to ask the questions, irrespective of which political party they represent.
That's very good. I'm glad to hear that. What concerns me most of all is that we have this organisation, ICNIRP, which...
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't allow direct questioning that. You can make a statement about what you've said for 2 minutes, but I'm afraid that's all that we can permit. And Sharon will time you.
I'm making a statement about the International Committee on Non-Ionising Radiation Protection, ICNIRP, and the statement is that they mostly are engineers, they are not biologists, and as Andrew Goldsworthy, who is the Professor of Biology at Imperial College, said, well, engineers know if you eat an egg, it'll go hard, but they don't know if you leave it alone, it'll turn into a chicken. And this is where we're at. We're at this situation where this organisation is determining whether something is safe, and yet totally refusing to acknowledge all this research. How can we get out of this situation? It has to change. The deployment of 5G is fitting into a familiar pattern, we've seen it before. Whether the technology is shale fracking, the release of toxins in the air, or Roundup, the procedure is the same. After minimal testing, you deploy the technology, make your profit, and by the time the lawsuits roll in, you've already made your money and will only have to mitigate the damage. There's a lack of any sense of responsibility for the death of men, women and children caused by the new technology. The money to be made justifies the means. More than irresponsible or morally repugnant, this is insane. And this comes from the scientific medical organisation that I'm a member of, Scientific Medical
I have to thank you then for that, Mr. Wood. Thank you. And again, thank you because I can see another person that's very passionate about this issue. And thank you for bringing your question. Okay, we have a fourth question now from Mr. Wells. Would you like to come to the front with your question? Thank you.
Well, you've actually got two elements to your question, and obviously you'll get a response. You can just do the first part.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Thank you. If Exeter City Council are not responsible for the deployment of further Wi-Fi EMF radiation across Exeter, and that the ruling comes from a higher, more senior authority, i.e. government level, will that higher authority release them from their responsibility of duty of care and due diligence that they are unable to apply in writing? Foles, thank you.
It sounds like passing the buck, but in reality, you would have to ask that higher authority, or indeed we would. And the answer is it's probably highly unlikely. But as in the case of the telegraph poles that I just mentioned, there was concern across the council. There was concern raised by our Member of Parliament, even though we did not have authority to say no. I know that at least half of those telegraph poles have since been removed. So I know that if my colleagues on scrutiny, who will discuss it fully next month or in November, if they have concerns, those concerns will come to the Executive Committee of the City Council, will come to the attention of our Member of Parliament, and if it is deemed necessary, people will take action as appropriate.
Okay. And the second part, given that each councillor is responsible for the collective decision of the council with any matter in hand, how does this higher ruling relate to the local public health and safety policies regarding Exeter's population?
And without being churlish, I'm almost going to give you the same answer on that one. There's a duty perhaps on you as a concerned person to ask that higher authority. If the scrutiny committee and the executive feel it's appropriate, then it's for us to ask that higher authority. It's for us to ask for any change, as we did on the telegraph poles, should we see that as unnecessary or dangerous for Exeter.
Okay. Can I follow on?
Yes, you can have 2 minutes to make that further statement. Thank you.
I'm a grandmother of 5 children aged 7 months to 15 years, and I'm sure that most of Exeter City Council are parents or grandparents. Babies in uterus and young children have smaller, less dense body mass, and their skulls are thinner than an adult's. Therefore, any high-frequency radiation would be more potent. Doctors believe up to 60% more. There has been no independent scientific research anywhere in the world on the combined levels of high-frequency radiation and the effects on children, in particular their brain-body health. The 5G appeal petition, signed by over 200 scientists, is calling for this independent study. It is known by the medical profession and peer-reviewed science that the quickest growing rate of illness in 5 to 19-year-olds is sadness. Suicide rates are rising and becoming the highest cause of death in children. Wi-Fi in schools. France has banned Wi-Fi in all its nursery schools, and all phones, tablets and wearable IT is banned for under 15-year-olds during the school day. Thank you. Thank you. Can I just add that I asked Sharon Sissons, she's going to pass around some leaflets at the end of the meeting for you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your interest.
Hello. Good evening. I'm going to stand up. Can you all hear me?
Yes, please.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hooray. Good, because I'm finding it hard to hear from back there, so I thought, can you see me on there, that little thing? I'm guessing you can. Cool. Right, okay. Good evening. Right, so here's my question. In preparation for the councillors having a potential discussion about 5G at the next scrutiny meeting, and following the presentations of a large petition from Exeter residents, please could the councillors commit to informing themselves on the subject by looking at the following 5G space appeal. There's a document, you've all got a link to it, even if you haven't got the thing in front of you now, I hope. So hands, raise your hands. Would you commit to looking at this document for us? Who's interested? 2 people, possibly 3. That's my question. Right, okay, so I've got 3 people who are willing to commit to do some more research.
But Councillor Foles, are you going to respond to that question?
I am.
Do respond.
And Wendy, I'm glad you made the cut.
Thank you.
Because you nearly fell off the end, didn't you? I don't think
allowed it.
I can tell. I don't think my colleagues were all therefore voting against. I did hear somebody say they objected to the way in which they were asked. Maybe.
Well,
I wouldn't take that as a no. Is that fair to say, colleagues? That's fine. But this information was circulated to councillors, who will also be advised that it does not supersede or override national planning policy guidance or the permitted development rights enjoyed by telecommunications operators. Having said that, we're not used to petitions. Don't come around that often. This is a large petition, and it would be remiss of us not to take it seriously. And as I've already said, I know that my colleagues around this table, when they come in November to discuss it, will do so in a thorough manner. And as I said earlier, somebody with as many grandchildren as I've got 6 grandchildren, I've got 5 children, I have a personal interest in it. So yes, the law's against us, if you like. It's not our decision, but if we're not happy, we can make noises and we can make waves.
Okay, so I'm glad you can make noises and waves, because that's what we need to have happen.
Thank you.
And I'm just wondering if you could all just check in with how do you feel right now? You've just given all this information. I'm asking a question.
Sorry, I can't allow you to ask those sorts of things at the meeting.
I'm asking a question about how you feel about having received all this information. Let's talk about how electromagnetic radiation isn't green, it's a pollutant.
I'm sorry, but it's not.
Can I carry on?
No, it's not in order for you to
Why so?
Thank you.
Okay, can I make 3 statements then?
Yes,
about
yes,
information
statement.
that you're going to find in the appeal, the 5G appeal, well, at least the 3 people who agreed to read it will. Effects of 5G have effects, 5G has effects on all living creatures, not just us, the bees, the animals, the birds, all of it. 5G degrades all biosystems. And people's health, not more importantly, but equally importantly, people's health will be degraded by this process, should it come into being. And those are all points that you might like to hear have empirical evidence to back them up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the people that have brought their questions, and I just want to reassure everybody that this is going to be on the agenda for the Scrutiny Committee when it happens in November. Does anybody want? We're not going to talk about it now, are we?
I recommend that we move to next business, as we're going to be discussing this in
Yes.
November, with the advice of our officers to inform our discussion.
Councillor Diana Moore.
Thank you very much for your presentations. From the presentations, there seemed to be some bits of information that would help inform our debate, so I wondered if we might agree what action might be taken to help inform the debate, because there seems to be a number of sources of additional information we need.
I'm listening to what you say. I think we need to give it some consideration and look at it, because we haven't had time. I'm sorry. Okay.
I made a proposal.
Yes, okay. Okay, Yvonne wants a seconder for her proposal. Thank you. That we don't debate this any further now, but leave it till...
I would second this and say that I think one of the problems we have is ill-informed, ill-prepared discussion and decision-taking, and we wish to avoid that if all possible, and we'll be discussing it in further detail at the next meeting. I, for one, do not wish to cajole into taking a decision one way or the other at the drop of a hat.
No, I don't think we're going to be taking a decision soon.
My proposal is we move to next business, because we are discussing this at our next meeting.
Okay.
At that meeting, we'll have the full advice of our officers, and can I also underline, I'm absolutely confident that advice will be full and complete, based on the current evidence that has been made available. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Vote on that.
Okay, well, we'll move on to our next business then, thank you.
I would like to check.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm going to move on to, we haven't got anything under item 6, have we? So I'm going to move on to item 7. I'm going to do that right. Okay, so I'm going to ask David Barton, the director, to
to speak about the options for investment in Exeter's curbside recycling service. Okay. Thank you, David.
Okay, so I'm just going to propose to take members through a whistle-stop tour of the paper, and then we're going to do a bit of a demonstration of the containers that we're deciding on using in Exeter, and then open to questions. So this is a fairly short update report, which essentially looks at the options chosen in the last report, and then we've worked up detailed costs. So we're asking for £200,000 to be set aside from the general fund to fund the project management assistance, so that's staff essentially. £2.1 million for the new containers, and we will. So that's a large amount of containers, as you understand, across the city, and we'll explain that in a little bit more detail. And then a capital budget of 1.5 million to enhance the materials reclamation facility. So that's obviously to update the facility to scenario. So what we do now, and it actually results in a very minor saving. It's essentially break even though. And you'll notice the report has quite considerable support from our Section 151 officer, so he's and the accountancy team have been through the figures in some detail. So Appendix 1 shows the key financial impacts, and what it actually shows is the variance from the last report. So it shows how figures have changed as we have revised our costs and looked at things in more detail. And as you can see, most of the costs have actually gone down, which is a good thing, apart from the container costs, which is for this what's called the triple stack system, which we'll demonstrate later. Appendix 2 shows the key risks, and two of the most critical are the potential for increased muscle injuries for our staff because of the increased lifting and twisting and turning, and that's one of the reasons that we've gone for the triple stack system. And there was a recent HSE report which examined this, because this is a system that's been rolled out across a number of authorities across the country, and this system greatly reduces the risks to staff. But the other benefit is it's more familiar to residents because it looks more like a wheelie bin, essentially. So the new service will actually eliminate some of our existing risks. So we have problems at the moment with our recycling caddies, the 45 litre ones. They're quite heavy, and people generally, our operatives sometimes pick them up with one hand, and that causes shoulder injuries and elbow injuries. So this will deal with that, which is a good thing. And I guess the other key risk is the change in government policy. So there's some discussion, as you know, around waste policy at the moment, and there is a potential for a mandatory minimum 2-week black refuse collection. This is something that's been spoken about. We don't know whether that will come in or not, but that's a risk that we have to consider. And if that does come through, it looks like it would still be roughly break even. There is some indication that new burdens will be funded by this producer responsibility, but that is quite uncertain at the moment, so it's still a risk. So we still have a lot of service design to go through, so this is kind of the start of the process for us. So this is us essentially asking for the money, and some items have a very long lead-in time. So the vehicles, so that's known as a Rome-equipped vehicle, which you might see around in Deanbridge and East Devon. The lead-in time currently on those is 18 months, so we have plenty of time to get the service right. So that's all I had to offer. Councillor Harvey, do you wish to?
I think David's explained it very clearly, exactly why we're here and exactly what the report's about. My role here is simply to move the formal recommendations. But do you wish to do them? Yeah, Paul going to do demonstration. So Paul can do a demonstration, and then I'll move the formal recommendation.
The triple stack system that came to came to us from one of the manufacturers that we already use for supplying the wheelie bin. They provide bags of plastic trucks on the curbside collection scheme. And they were looking at issues that other authorities have had, as they mentioned, regarding manual handling for both residents and for the crews too. So they designed this, and this also keeps all the boxes in one place. So the footprint is exactly the same as it is for the green wheelie bin. So if you can have a green wheelie bin, you can have one of these, because it will fit the same.
Would you keep it outside the same?
Yes, yeah, you can keep it outside. So the axle's the same, the height's the same, and the width is the same.
Could vermin get into these things quite easily to keep outside? I mean, I can imagine that's pretty tempting.
Again, I mean, yeah, this is for the recycling material.
Oh, right,
So,
yeah.
so the suggestion is that these are for the self-separation. So you'd have the heavy materials at the bottom. So you'd have glass at the bottom, probably with another material. In the middle, mixture of tins, plastic bottles, Tetra Paks, paper and card at the top. There's no reason for residents to take it apart while they're using it. The flats are quite big and they're held back to get things in. They clip up quite well, and the lid comes up on here. So then this can be wheeled out, left out the front as you would your wheelie bin. The crews come along, and it's ideal for those because if you say I live in East Devon, we've got a bag and box service, and they've got bags in their teeth and kicking things on the floor. They wheel this to the side of the vehicle, dismantle it, empty it into the relevant compartments, and put it back. Pardon? It can, but the materials, the only one it can't do is the top one, which is why it suggested that paper and card go in there. But you've got glass at the bottom, they've got holes in at the bottom, so the water will run through, and the plastics and the cans, it doesn't matter if they're wet when they go in. So the only one that we don't want wet is cardboard and paper.
What colours exactly?
And separate food waste, yeah, again, they've now, as Dave said, regarding these buckets, they've actually learned over the years to extend the handle, so they're easy to pick up. But with this, they do actually fit over the handle too. So it can be taken as one unit to the vehicle. Colours, any colour you like, but as long as it's black, really. Recycled plastic can only come in black. The composition of recycled plastic doesn't take the colours in the polymer. So you have to use virgin plastic for that. So providing they're all black, it can be used out of recycled plastic, yes.
I just wondered if there was an issue about having different coloured lids
Yeah.
for maybe people with learning disabilities, or just remind anybody that one thing or one is another. And I just wondered whether there might be
I'm just talking about colours of lids and whether it might be worth having discussions with groups, for example, of people with learning disabilities, if it would be helpful if different things with different coloured lids to help remind people or make it easier. It may not do, but it might do.
Yeah. We're at the early stages yet. We're looking everywhere. We're talking to other authorities that use these already, and other authorities that don't see the advantage and disadvantage. But these are. I've been waste manager for 22 years, and I think this is probably one of the most innovative things I've seen, really, particularly with the bag and box. There is also one other good news story with this, that we send all our hard plastics, which are all the old scrap wheelie bins and all the old boxes, we send them off to a company called Plasgrain. The company that make these, they get their recycled plastic grains from the same company. So when we retrieve all the green wheelie bins, we'll send them to this company, which will then send the flake and the pellets to this company to make new boxes. We've got a nice virtual loop there.
Yeah, a couple of questions.
Yeah.
How do you wheel it? I mean, I can see there's big wheels.
Yeah.
Do you get the whole thing, including the...
Yeah, you got the whole thing. It wheels very easy. It's just as easy as a wheelie bin. Even I've tried it with bits and pieces into it, and it flew around.
What happens to the people like me who've got the little green boxes at the moment?
Again, we'd have, as we would on wheelie bins, we could have an assisted collection. If you can't move this at all, yeah, the assisted collection, possibly.
Well, I've got no way of keeping a big green wheelie bin outside my front door. I've got big lots of steps.
Yeah, again, this isn't one size fits all. It fits a lot of people, but there will be places where we will have to review.
I mean, this is what I'm thinking. I mean, people are going to ask me questions
Yeah.
as to how we're going to do it, and I need to have the answers when the residents of my patch ask me.
It's the same way that we offer the small caddy now. If you can't have one of these, we'll have to look at that when we go through. We're surveying all properties. We've got all the information of all the properties in Exeter. We're looking at bin stores. We're looking at suitability for these in all properties.
Thank you. I think Councillor Harvey wanted to come in.
Yes, and the really good news about all of this is that all those homes that already have a large green bin, a large grey bin which is really black, and a large brown bin like my home, we're going to collect all those up and recycle them.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do with all of those. They're going to go back into the recycling chain. They're not going to be, left all over the place or whatever.
I think
But as Paul says, this is just, and David has also said, this is just the start of the process. There's 18 months before we are able to get the vehicles, and we're working through the process to see where we can get to and what's most appropriate, and there will be different solutions for different people.
Can I just add, you're saying you're going to collect the old bins. Before we had the wheelie bins and things, we all were given black dustbins. Probably before your time, David. And I know quite a lot of people have still got them. So could we encourage people to donate those back as well? Because, I mean, I've got one or two in my garden, I think.
Yeah, any hard plastic we'll take back. We can recycle all those.
We'll have to have a big collection of old black dustbins. Old black.
It's
Okay,
quite
thank you.
fast.
Can I just add something else?
Okay.
I had a problem this morning. I was my usual Thursday down at the recycling centre. I've got a very large glass jar. What do you do with it? It won't go in the hops of the glass collections. And there's bound to be, because the holes aren't very big. And what do you do with a big carboy that you can't put in?
Ask Dennis. I'll ask him tomorrow.
My ask was that they said bring it down next week when you come down. But, I mean, the bottles at the moment, if you've got anything bigger than a bottle.
Okay, I'll let David's going to.
I was just going to say that obviously curbside collection will solve all those problems for you, so you won't have to worry about that in the future. I guess the answer would be if you're able to take it to your household recycling facility.
Okay, on that note, I think Diana, you've got Councillor question to ask.
Thank you, and thank you for your continued work on this, and this looks like a really great solution. I've got a few questions, if that's okay. You say it's going to be an 18-month lead-in time. How long will it be before the service breaks even? And I assume your figures include inflation with, I didn't quite understand that these were savings on the original budget. So what's your inflation levels for that? And just clarify on this budget here, you're planning to contract the new fleet rather than buy vehicles. And are these electric vehicles that have been talked about, or is that a different project? A couple more questions. Does this scheme employ any apprentices? And I've got a couple more if that's all right. And how will the food waste be treated or processed? And there was a mention there of Tetra Packs. Are you going to collect those as well? Because that would be really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll try and remember all of those. So it returns a small surplus each year, but obviously we're putting a considerable investment. So over a 10-year period, it's still slightly out of, it doesn't quite pay back over 10 years. So it makes a slight surplus each year, which is good. And to be honest, the investment in the MRF we need to do anyway. So it would either be a case of if we didn't do it, that the plant would start to fail more often. So this is the whole point of this is really to stop the current overspend or current loss of income for the recycling facility, and that's generally due to breakdowns. So that's what this is designed to stop. Vehicles. We lease vehicles, so the fleet contract for the whole of the council is now lease hire rather than purchase, which is good in terms of financial certainty, because we know each month how much we're going to spend, so that's great for financial planning. It also means that our vehicles will be much newer, so we won't have to keep them for the length of time that we do at the moment, so you get more modern technology and cleaner engines. Regard to electric fleet, so currently there is still no cost-effective refuse collection vehicle that is electric. So some of the big manufacturers are moving towards that, and the market is moving very quickly, but currently there is only like a retrofit solution. We are hopeful that Dennis Eagle will come out with something soon. The Rome equipped vehicles at the moment, so there is no electric solution for those currently. But we expect the market to fill in that gap as soon as they can. And with the lease hire, it means we can switch vehicles more often and take advantage of that new technology. Food waste, anaerobic digestion. So there is already a county-wide contract for food waste, and we are simply just joining that, because it's what the other authorities do at the moment. So they come and collect from our facility. So part of the alterations to the MR to the materials reclamation facility will be storage for food waste. That is then collected from there and taken off for anaerobic digestion. Sorry. Oh yeah, apprentices. I nearly forgot that one. We haven't really worked out what the staffing situation will be at the moment. We need more staff to deliver this than the current situation. We already take on apprentices. We are looking at training up our drivers from within our existing staffing, but that's something we can look at in more detail.
And Councillor Harvey wants to...
Yeah, I'd just like to add something to go with what David just said. David is very right, and one of the reasons we have done this is because we would need to do something about the MRF. But there is also a political commitment from us as the Labour Party and the ruling group of this council that we want to do something about the way we have been collecting waste. Those things add together to make a decision, and they are equally as of import to us. That the residents of Exeter, when consulted, suggested that that's not suggested, they said it's in citizens. 71% was it, Paul? 71% said that they wanted us to do this one. So what we've actually done is found a mechanism by improving the MRF in order to be able to deliver the ambition that the people of Exeter wanted. And I think it's very important that we maintain that at the forefront of our minds, is that what we're doing here is adding and supporting our green perception and our recycling rates and all those sorts of things. It's not just about the fact that we've got to mend a bit of kit and that gets us to where we are.
Okay, thank you then. Is that... Sorry? Oh.
Yeah, we are looking to, we discussed it You'd like to do everything as you can.
Okay, Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much for your replies. Can you just confirm what the target recycling rates will be in the first few years, because they obviously need to improve quite considerably?
I'm going to do this, right? The waste hierarchy is reduce, reuse and recycle. Yeah. From our perspective, there has been far too much concentration on recycling rates as being the most important performance indicator. We are far more concerned with total amount of reduction and reusing. So yes, we're quite keen that the recycling rate goes up, but but we would rather reduce and reuse before we got to recycle. So we're not actually identifying increased recycling rates, although there will be. East Devon got their rates up somewhere above the 50% rates, so those are achievable and we will expect to achieve those. But I am very keen that we look at the number, the key performance indicator, which is the total amount of waste from each household, and currently Exeter is 4th in the country after some, if you exclude London boroughs, and that is where we want to be, at the bottom end of the hierarchy, the reduce and reuse and recycle. Recycle is clearly a key indicator, but we are focusing on ensuring that we get to reduce and reuse.
Thank you. Councillor Jemima Moore, thank you.
No, thank you. I just want to also pass on my thanks. I'm very excited about the much needed updates to the waste collection. One of the things that people have said to me as a negative, which is generally things everyone else feels the same, very positive, is about things being smelly and not being very nice. Well, of course, if you haven't got food waste, then it's less likely to be smelly. But I see that as part of the plans, there's a possibility of having hygiene waste collection service. I wondered if you could tell me more about what that might entail and how it looks for people who perhaps have babies' nappies and aren't using reusable nappies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that is an issue now as well for the people collection.
Yes.
So we do appreciate that, and I've done in other authorities too. It's an issue. We do increase capacity for people but we might need to be a bit more robust on this and provide a bag for
Okay, so you would take it alongside the recycling.
Yeah, that's right. But generally, I mean, that would go with the rest of the branch. But you can increase the capacity.
Thank you. That's everybody's question. I think we need to move to recommend. Oh, you've got something to say.
Oh no, I'm just going to, if everybody's done,
Going to move to the recommendation.
I just formally move to the recommendations. Chuck, one she's got here says. So the first recommendation is that we, the Place Scrutiny Committee and Executive recommend to Council the adoption of option 4, weekly curbside salt recycling, incorporating glass and food waste collection with 3 weekly rubbish collection and associated investment in the MRF. And that to implement this chosen service option 4, Place Scrutiny Committee notes an Executive Committee recommends to Council a budget of £200,000 to set aside from General Fund revenue reserves to provide the project management and assistance with rollout. A capital budget of £2,105,000 is provided for the improved recycling containers, and a capital budget of £1.5 million to enhance the MRF.
Thank you. Can I put it to, or put those recommendations together to the committee then? And can I ask you you all agree?
Let's do it as soon as possible.
Yes, like tomorrow, please. Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation and for bringing the bins, because that will help us to speak to people now that we've actually seen them. Thank you then. Okay, so the next items are for information only, which we're going to move on to, and the first, and it's item 8, and we've got an in-Exeter update from Victoria Hatfield, who is going to address that for us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a report to update on the final year of the bid, which is the Business Improvement District in the city centre. Unfortunately, Anne couldn't be with us tonight, so she sends her apologies. I'm going to focus a little bit more on what our involvement is as a city council rather than actually what they've done. The activities of the bid for the last 5 years is within the committee report, within the appendix, and I have a copy, hot off the press from last night. If you want a copy of their business plan for the next 5 years, I can leave that with you. So the bid levy that we pay every year as Exeter City Council fluctuates dependent on how many properties we own that are vacant. So if a business is in that business, then we don't pay the bid levy from that. But on an annual basis, well, specifically for this financial year, we've paid £15,000 in bid levies to the bid. We have a seat on the board, and that's covered by Councillor Harvey, and I sit there with him and support him as a non-voting director to provide some support to Councillor Harvey. For the financial year ending the 31st of March 2018, they collected just over £500,000 worth of bid money, and that was from businesses within the bid area. And the bid area was in one of your appendix, so you can see the type of businesses which is in the bid area. In Exeter, which is the bid, they provide sponsorships and grants to local community groups and event organisers, and have done for a couple of years. And I just want to highlight a few of those which have been awarded funds for this year. An Exeter Festival, which is organised by Exeter City Council, received £1,500 this year. The Exeter Fringe Festival, again, was £1,500. The Big Screen in the Park, Exeter Pride and Plastic Free Exeter, who received £1,000 of grant sponsorship from the bid. The Next team has expanded recently. They've appointed a new business engagement officer, which will be liaising with the businesses within the bid, because they're going to a vote in October, so they'll be doing a lot of talking about their business plan for the next 5 years, and a new events manager, which will be responsible for delivering a number of events between now and March, and if they get a yes vote, that will continue for another 5 years. As I mentioned, the bid is going to ballot in October, and if they get a yes vote, the bid will continue for another 5 years. If they get a no vote, then as a they so they no longer yes.
I'm going to call it Exeter. We'll do a bit of a double act as we go through this. So, overarching objective for the Building Greater Exeter project is all about supporting the construction sector. We're working with our partners in East Devon and in Teignbridge, so hence the Building Greater Exeter part of this. And essentially, we are helping the sector to address their skills challenges and their recruitment issues, which are very well documented. So why do we need it? So some key factors here. There's a significant challenge in terms of the supply of skilled labour and qualified workers, and that's across all aspects of construction, so whether that's through the trades or into the professions and into all sorts of different jobs. So you can see there that we're going to need around 27,000 new workers into the sector by 2023. And that's huge growth here in the southwest compared to nationally. So we've got all of those challenges around our labour market anyway, and they're only compounded when you look at a sector like this. So that's an annual recruitment figure of about 5,500 workers into that one sector. So we really do need to be supporting this industry and building that pipeline of talent to come through to make sure that we can achieve our growth ambitions and those house building ambitions as well to support the sector. So 3 key goals as part of Building Greater Exeter that we've worked on with our partners to develop these. So the first is about inspiring the future workforce, so that's working with young people, with schools, with colleges, all sorts of different groups, to actually position construction as an attractive career prospect. And we're doing a huge amount of work that Dawn will cover in a minute. We want to support employers locally, so help to facilitate recruitment into the jobs that they've got, and also to help people to continue on that journey and to upskill, so to not stop at that point of, okay, I've got my one job here, so think about a job, a better job, and then a career within the industry as well, so continue on that journey. And then the third thing in here is about using a product around the National Skills Academy for construction, and the client-based approach. So this is about where through procurement and planning we can encourage our companies to put in place employment and skills plans and deliver some of those outcomes. So death by logo slightly, but just to demonstrate to you that we now have 28 project partners on board, so very much public-private sector partnership in order to drive this forward. So I already mentioned the other two district councils that we have on board, the college, Exeter College, as well as South Devon and Bicton, the university, and then a huge range of our private sector partners. So when we started off about a year ago and we were launching, we sort of had slightly lower ambitions. We thought we might get to around about 15 partners in our first year. So I think, and Dawn will touch on kind of the collaborative nature, that actually this really has been a project that lots of people have wanted to get involved with, to engage with, and to really work together to drive this forward. So we're really pleased with the amount of commitment that we've got on board here. I'm going to hand over to Dawn now to talk about what we've been doing.
Thank you, and hello everyone. I've been in the role for about 6 months now, and I've been really impressed with the amount of collaboration within the construction industry. And I think this project is great. It's an umbrella where, particularly the sort of tier 1 construction companies who are normally competing for business, they can come together and share their learnings and best practice to help benefit the industry as a whole. And as Rosie said, we have 3 goals. The first is all about inspiring the future workforce. And we have a whole school engagement programme, which I'll touch on in a minute. We attend numerous events that are attracting young people. We've been working with Devon County Council and their Step Forward programme, so care leavers, young people who might not know what they want to do next, working with our partners to give them some work experience. And also with the Careers Hub, so they're already going into school talking about careers. They're also helping us deliver our school engagement programme, and we're organising events for careers leaders throughout Greater Manchester to come along and have a site, Greater Exeter, Greater Exeter, to come and have a site visit to St Sidwell's Point, and we can talk to them about careers in construction. We're also thinking further afield of the Careers Lead event for the whole of the South West, and we're going to have a construction focus there. So moving on to the school engagement programme itself, this is built in partnership with our partners and with schools to ensure it meets their curriculum, their Gatsby benchmarks, and it includes a whole host of activities that they can select that are right for them. So it may be someone talking at a careers assembly, it may be someone attending a careers fair or event, or it might be us organising work experience or site visits for them. I've just put a few slides in here which I'll whiz through, but they just give you a feel of the events that we attended. This event is a huge national apprenticeship show at West Point. Over 7,000 attended, and 3/4 of those were from Devon. The Apprenticeship Expo is held at Exeter College every year. Exeter College have a whole construction department based out whole site in Southam. We included them. They came along to give hands-on, engaging activities. It's all about showcasing the possibilities for a career in construction. And we also trying to encourage our project partners to bring young people who are already working in construction so they can share their experiences. Now, the Big Bang has got to be by far the best event that I've been involved with since starting in this role. We teamed up with Building Plymouth, which is a similar initiative run down in obviously Plymouth, and together we brought together our project partners to have a huge construction zone at this event. Now, the Big Bang is a STEM careers fair, and it's held up at West Point. 6,000 schools from the whole of the South West attended, and we clocked 2,000 going through our zone. We had the construction mascot, Ivor Goodsight, who was very popular with the younger children, as you can see in this image here. And for them, it's not about one company or one organisation. They're not going to remember any names. It's all about construction and the built-in environment. How can we get them together and showcase what could be possible in a career in construction? So we had everything on the stand. Everything was hands-on and engaging. We had Build a Town, we had a demolition simulator, we had VR, we had a design lab, we had building challenges, interactive games, and lots of images that just go back there, actually young people, different careers in construction, all around the stand, and just showcasing 180 plus job roles that are available in the sector. Not only do we have an inside zone, we had an outside zone activities as well. You can see there with the excavators, very popular, not just with the children, but the teachers quite enjoyed trying those out as well. We had surveying challenges and scaffolding challenges. And I wanted to include this slide because I think it was a really good example of industry collaboration. We had 50 industry partners who joined us throughout the day, and together we could have a bigger impact, we could have a bigger voice for construction, and had they all gone in and had their own stands, we wouldn't have had the same impact as coming together. And it's the first time we teamed up with Building Plymouth, and all the feedback from everyone who joined us on the day and those attended the events was really, really positive. And next day we go bigger and better because it's a 2-day event and we'll be attracting more schools. So the second goal, as Rosie mentioned, was all about recruitment and upskilling. And the way we do that, similar again, we attend events. This was a photo taken at the Jobs Fair Exeter City Council organised in March. A couple of weeks we've got the next one. The way we help is we get our construction partners to come along with their live vacancies and generate a construction zone within the fair. We work closely with Job Centre Plus in terms of regular meetings and updates, but also connecting our partners to them to offer work experience and training for their clients. We've been doing a lot recently with service leavers. The feedback from our partners is they're a really valuable resource for the construction industry. Not only do they have fantastic transferable skills that they can bring in, but they have a great work ethic as well. So we're doing a lot more by attending resettlement fairs and events, by producing more information on our website, more collateral, and also working with our partners who already employ service leavers to shadow and have it work experience where service leavers, if they're not sure if it's right for them, they can go on site or they can go into an office and shadow someone who's been through the same experience as them. And then finally in this area, a major part of our project delivery this year is going to be the Building Growth Southwest project. Now this is a partnership with YTKO, who are one of our project partners, and it's a funded opportunity through the Construction Industry Training Board. And it's focusing on 3 areas. So one is comms, to improve the perception of an image of construction. 2 is about soft skills, training and development. And the 3rd is all about pre-employment training. So we're just getting this project off the ground now. It's a 3-year project with funding. It's targeting these groups which have been set by CITB, so NEETs, women, service leavers, long-term unemployed, and further education leavers. And these are students who've pursued a career in construction but maybe haven't then taken up a career in construction. So it's working with them and enabling them to do so. The outputs, you can read here, have been set for the project, but we want to smash those targets. We think these are easily achievable. And for us, in 3 years, we want to have the legacy and the continued impact that the project can deliver. I'm going to hand over to Rosie now, who's going to run through our 3rd goal.
I mentioned earlier about the National Skills Academy and the client-based approach. So this is one of those levers that we have available to us as the public sector in order to encourage our private sector partners to put things in place around employment and skills, particularly through either the procurement process by asking for things to be delivered or through our planning process as well. So this again is working with the Construction Industry Training Board. It's a product of theirs, so a national set of targets and indicators. this will mean that we will be working much more closely with our planning department and looking at the major developments. So the way that the academy approach works is that anything over £1 million you can ask for outputs around employment, around qualifications, attendance at careers events, and that's set in a national framework of indicators. So on a sliding scale, dependent on the value of the project. So, for example, the St Sidwell's Point development that's being delivered by Kier, they have an employment and skills plan in place that's commensurate with the value of that development. And also at the St Loy's Extra Care Facility. So we meet with their employment and skills coordinator regularly. They update on how many apprentices they've got on site, how many people going through qualifications, how many careers events they've supported. So it's set within a well-known national framework that many of our tier 1 contractors are used to using. We just need to be much better at working with our planning colleagues to have those conversations early with developers. And also to work with the team at the Southern Construction Framework that much public sector build is put through, to make sure that we can start demonstrating the whole impact of this work across the area. So rather than there being lots of great things going on out there, or developers not really quite sure where they would be able to deliver some of this activity, we can start to bring all of that together under the Building Greater Exeter banner. And another example of a project is that working with our colleagues in East Devon, we'll be monitoring their employment and skills plan that they have with ISG at that Ansonfield depot. So there's lots of work to do, there's lots of potential obviously with all the development happening, but we're very keen to make sure that we can bring people together and we can actually demonstrate how valuable those employment and skills plans are in terms of achieving this objective. Hand back to Dawn.
Nearly done. So in terms of marketing, we obviously have a website, we have our LinkedIn pages, and we have Twitter feeds. We have numerous updates. I attend lots of events to try and raise awareness of the project and the work that we're doing. The two on the right, depending how you're looking at it, were from the project partner update that we held at RAM earlier this year. We had 60 project partners and a wider group who are interested in finding more about the project. And then I also go along and speak at our partners events. So Morgan Sindall had a big supply chain event, and I went along with my colleague from Building Plymouth, and we talked about here really was the importance of them offering apprenticeships. You may have noticed some banners popping up all around Exeter to just really raise awareness of the brand and the project. And there's a few sites where you can see them, but there's about 20 around at the moment. And this is just a selection of events that we're going to be attending this year and next. And before we go on to questions, we asked Matthew Cousins to join us. Matthew is Commercial Director at Apex Scaffolding, but he's also the Chair of Building Greater Exeter. And we thought it would be really useful to hear from him firsthand how the project is benefiting yourself and the industry.
Thank you.
Probably the biggest thing we've got out of it is the sort of events that you saw up there. So the Big Bang, the careers fairs, things like that. We would have to pay £2,000 potentially. So for a stand there, we might not see anybody, nobody comes through. Well, by doing it in a construction zone, we're part of it. People come in because they want to have a play on the digger, and then they talk to somebody about scaffolding. And we wouldn't be able to do those events. We're quite a small company. If you have a look at the project partners, there are big national tier ones. We're entirely based within Exeter. We're not on their scale. We haven't got the budgets to be able to do that sort of thing that they have. So through Building Greater Exeter, we access the resources, not only in Building Greater Exeter, but also those tier one companies. So, I can be stood next to somebody who's got a virtual demolition machine, and it just gets people in, and it means that we can, we meet new people who are coming into the industry, and it's great what we've got out of it. And I've been able to put back in, because when the project started, I think there was probably about 8 or 9 project sponsors, and we were the only Exeter-based one, I think, at that point. And I felt that, in terms of a steering group, it would be good to have somebody from Exeter who wasn't, led by, if you had a tier one company like Kier or BAM or something leading it, I didn't think that would feel right. I felt it should be somebody local who was chairing, and that's why I decided to volunteer and do it. So,
okay.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and thank all of you for such an interesting and very enthusiastically given presentation to all of us. I'm sure we've all found it very interesting, and I'm sure I'm going to ask if there's any questions. Councillor Atkins.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously 80 is well short of the 5,000 a year you need. I know that's across Devon rather than Exeter, so it's obviously work in progress. But is there a plan B if we don't manage to find enough skilled workforce or apprenticeships from within our own communities? Is there a plan B? Is part of my question. You also mentioned that you're working with the Heart of the South West Local Enterprise Partnership, who has a very limited budget in relation to any of this, which I know. But one of the things that came up when I was on the LEP Scrutiny was what were they doing to encourage new forms of construction, perhaps coming into our region, for instance, modular building constructions, which would require different skills. So, and they hadn't actually even thought about it. They thought, so probably the answer is nothing is going to happen in that field. But it just looks to me that are we looking to the future and what skills are going to be needed in the future, or are we just planning to deal with the present at the moment, and what would be our approach to any new technologies that might come in, like 3D printing or whatever it is?
So we'll take the first point around the challenges around the workforce, so more broadly. So I think that my skills plan is coming at some point, Scrutiny. We have a challenge anyway in terms of forecast shortfall in working age population, demand on skills. So all of these things are set within a challenging environment, and we acknowledge that. I think we're doing what we can to raise the profile within a sector that's going to have a particular challenge in terms of its workforce and starting that, with young children and really raising the profile and changing some of those perceptions around the industry. So, it's acknowledged there will be a challenge regardless, and construction is not the only sector, but set that in the context of those growth ambitions and plans, and it's important for us to be bringing this sector together and supporting them to work collaboratively and make sure that they're trying to fill those gaps and think ahead. In terms of the question around the LEP, the work we're doing through Building Greater Exeter with the Local Enterprise Partnership is specifically with their Careers Hub. Lucky enough to have funding through the Department for Education and the Careers and Enterprise Company, and we've supported that with a small amount of funding to really engage with our Exeter schools around that. That obviously is looking at careers broadly. We're making sure construction is high up on the list when they're in schools talking to the careers leaders about activities and everything else. I sit as part of the LEP Construction Skills Group. We're looking at that work plan going forward. There's lots of discussion about digital skills, particularly within the construction industry at the moment, and how can we make sure that everyone in construction is improving their digital skills and more forward thinking about new technologies and other things that are going to come along. So I think it's rising up the agenda there in terms of where it will fit with the LEP and where it will fit within the local industrial strategy. But we can bring that back to you if you have any questions about it.
Councillor Diana Moore.
Can I ask Matthew a question? Thank you for coming to talk to us. In the very beginning, I trained as a building surveyor and worked for a little while as a building surveyor, not very long. And so I'm very interested to see your targets about involving particular groups like needs, and also obviously women. So I'm just wanting to know about sort of construction companies and their alignment with these goals, and would you be wanting to see more from these groups within the sector, and how can they help you grow your business?
Absolutely. Certainly, it's there's something to be said for those of us in the industry when you're looking at who you're going to take on in terms of the apprentices who come through. Quite a lot of them don't know there's 2 6 o'clocks in the morning. Whereas if you get ex-service leavers, they're certainly, they know what day's work is. They know how to get up in the morning. So the building industry are looking at that. The NASC, who are the National Access and Scaffolding Federation, who I'm a member of, they're certainly looking at getting more women into scaffolding and into construction more wider. So yeah, absolutely, the people who are up on the list, those groups are, you know, they're who we need to get in, because there's such a misconception that if you're not very good at anything else, you'll end up in construction. But there are so many different roles that are more than just putting a spade in the ground. You know, further education, the scaffolding, now every scaffold has to be designed. Well, to do that, you have to go to university. To be able to do it, you have to have certain engineering degrees. So, you know, there are so many opportunities for the whole spectrum of people to come into the industry. But one thing which I've noticed is a lot of careers advisors and things, they just don't see construction as a potential, you know, if you're good at something, then they tend to send you directly to university rather than into an apprenticeship. And that's something which, you know, we want to look at.
And Councillor Lyons.
Yes, I think following on from that, the schools these days are so keen on the academic subjects that the more practical subjects are being phased out in lots of schools, so that the children who aren't as academic, who have got the practical skills and would be great, you know, in the construction industry, they just are almost forgotten in school. And so it's good that you're going in with these jobs fairs, and I commend you for doing it.
Any further questions? Thank you so much, the three of you, for coming. It's been very interesting.
Thank you for the
for doing this.
opportunity.
Well, no, thank you for your
Thanks for your
enthusiasm.
attention.
It's a bit infectious. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, the forwards to his court.
Then before you go.
I don't count.
Right, so I have to stay. Okay.
We also have
Well, we'll press on and see how we go. We're on to item 10, which again is just something to note. And I'm hoping that everybody's read the report from the Exeter HATOC, the Highways and Traffic Orders Committee, and perhaps just note that. I think you could ask just one question. I'm sorry, I haven't put my mic.
I'm sorry to ask a question about this one. We actually know it's not.
It's a short question.
It's a short question. It's about the Clear Channel advertising. I'm presuming that they supply the bus shelter or the tidings as well as their advertising. I wonder about the advertising that we often see on them. I know myself, sitting at bus stops with my children, I've often felt that the screens that advertise things are inappropriate. Often it will be for computer games, where there are images that I don't particularly want young children to see, or it will be for foods which I feel are unhealthy, or all sorts of things which I don't really want my young children to be having put in front of them on a screen. I think lots of parents, or people generally, might try and avoid their children watching particular adverts, and actually when you're sat at a bus stop with your child or walking past it, it's suddenly there right in your face. So I wonder if it might be that Councillor Harvey, whoever sits on the Exeter Highways and Traffic Orders Committee, might be able to pass that back to Clear Channel in terms of asking that they think about the appropriateness of those adverts, and also whether we need to have screens like that at our bus stops. I recognise that it's probably to do with the funding that they put in, but equally feel that the way it makes our city feel is not a particularly nice environment. Thank you
very much. And I think Councillor Atkins wants to.
I'll answer that, because I've done quite a lot of work on Clear Channel, and this was a contract which had set up the content of the adverts in the town centre have been under the control of the planning committee, who has agreed only family appropriate advertising in there. So if there's anything which might be offensive, I certainly haven't seen anything. But we could perhaps. Do you want to add to that?
Can I just add to this, right? Because I started off at the county writing this contract. Never mind sitting on HATOC. I actually started off doing this contract. Right? It's a county council contract, It's not a city council contract. The city council is involved in it in certain ways, in that we have to give planning permission for sign and illuminate. There are some technical things, but the planning permission has to be given by the city council for certain signs, yeah, and business rates are charged on those signs. Right, you will find that there was a report to executive about digital advertising on Tuesday, which mentions this, but the essence of the contract is that Clear Channel provide the bus shelters across the city for free in return for the advertising rights, which are, as Councillor Atkinson says, controlled quite strictly, and they have to be family friendly and so on and so forth. But that is the situation, and it's actually a county contract. So if you wish to raise that matter at Hattock, we can certainly talk about it again at Hattock. I think the difficulty here, Councillor Moore, is that what some people might find inappropriate, other people don't find inappropriate, and given that control is not with this council or with the county, then I think it'd be more relevant for you to talk to your county councillors.
Yes. Thank you. I think it's not just in terms of appropriateness for young children, but in many ways around our kind of ethics and what we're wanting people in the city to have their lifestyles like, and some of the things are just simply for foods and unhealthy foods, which we probably know that we don't want to be advertised to our children. Not that it's for anything that you think sort of not okay for a family to see, but rather things that we know in the best interest of their health and well-being isn't great.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you for your responses. And I think the suggestion from Councillor Harvey is that you take it in other routes.
Well, can I say that? I mean, I have the Clear Channel come to every Hattock, well, come at my request to Hattock's chair of Hattock, who's been working with them on this contract. If you write to me and send me a photo of any advert that you think is inappropriate, I can discuss it in the thing, and we can have a discussion about whether other people agree with you on the appropriateness of it.
Okay, thank you. So I take it there's no further questions on that, on the Hattock report. Okay, I'm going to move on then to our final item, which is item 11 on the agenda, and Councillor Diana Moore has submitted a request to receive an update on the progress on the use of single plastics, and I understand that Councillor Sutton is going to make a response to that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm assuming everyone's had a copy of Diana's questions on this. I've got quite a lot of detail on here, but I am mindful of people's commitments, so I'll try and be kind of brief and efficient, but hopefully respond to. So you're asking about the progress that we've made towards our policy of ending the use of single-use plastics, and I think it's something that we're all behind. I mean, it was widely welcomed and supported at council when we actually we took the decision. But I think if I'm brutally honest, the answer in terms of where we got to is it's a bit mixed. There's good news, there's a lot of positive things that we've been doing, but I think there's a way to go in other areas, and I think you'd accept that life is a bit complicated, and I kind of note there's a number of reusable cups around the table. Mine's in the bag at the back, but we haven't completely managed to kind of knock that one, because we do have visitors coming to the Civic Centre who maybe aren't yet in the habit of doing that. So there are areas where we are making progress, and other areas where we have more to do. I wanted to go back to something you mentioned, collecting Tetra Packs early on in the previous item. We do actually collect them. I don't know whether you noticed, over in Bampard Street there's a big orange like a bottle bank, only not, and there's another one at Heathertree, which is my local one. So you can put Tetra Packs, your orange juice cans, in fact those cups, and the plastic and paper cups from coffee shops, you can dispose of those. I collect them all in a carrier bag, and then when I'm going round to Heavy Tree Pleasure Ground and kind of dump them on the way. So just to encourage people to take advantage of that. And the other thing is, I think sometimes we need to interrogate. It looks easy that paper and it is going to be better than plastic, and that actually isn't always the case. And I know there's some information saying that, you know, if you use a paper bag, it actually takes more energy to produce than a plastic bag, and that you have to use it more times in order to, if you like, get the benefit. Now, I appreciate it's more nuanced than that, because a paper bag will biodegrade more quickly and less harmfully than a plastic bag will. But as I say, I think we need to be careful, and I think a lot of it is around actually us being a bit more savvy. I mean, I'm kind of a big grown-up now. I don't actually need a straw, either paper or plastic, when someone gives me a gin and tonic. I can manage quite well with the glass, and I think we need to be getting in the habit of saying to the bars and pubs and restaurants, you know, thanks, but no straw, thanks. I don't need it, because then they won't be produced in the first place, and they won't be bought, and we won't have this, you know, is one better than the other? Well, you know, none of them. And I do appreciate that there are needs for straws for some people with disabilities and particular needs, but you know, happily most of us aren't in that situation. And again, I know this is going to sound a bit like we're only talking about the good stuff, but there is a lot of good stuff. We are continuing to work with the Ocean Recovery Project, that I know you'll be very well aware of, which is partnership with Keep Britain Tidy, because most of the plastics on our beaches come from the fishing industry, and I'm told that we now have big orange containers in Bude and Padstow, as well as the regular collections from Teignmouth and Exmouth, and that those marine plastics are being collected at source, as it were, and they are being brought back to our MRF. They're being sorted, and some of that plastic was used to construct one of the stages at Glastonbury, so I'm told. So that's all good stuff. And the other thing is, we do not export any of our recycling collection from the MRF. It is not a case, sadly, with some authorities, which is kind of shove it on a boat and it's out of sight, out of mind. We properly and responsibly deal with the plastic that we collect, and we know where it goes, and we know what happens to it. Coming on to procurement, because there's questions in there as well. It is expressly included, sustainable procurement is expressly included within the procurement strategy that's going to corporate services scrutiny in November. And I know some of you will get to see it then. And that includes adoption of the sustainability assessment matrix, which actually allows us to consider things before we start the procurement process about the impact on the environment of the goods, the works and the services. And it is intended that single-use plastic strategy will be further developed, so that we are ending the sale of single-use plastic products, phasing them out from our estates. As I say, we haven't solved it yet. I'm told there's a less plastic, more fantastic toolkit. I haven't seen that yet, but I'll be interested in seeing that. But again, then working with our suppliers towards the zero single-use plastic. And some of that work is already going on. I know festivals and events that we've had, we have been working with our providers of food and drink outlets on the Exeter Festival in the summer, so that they are mindful of their responsibilities. And I have to say, most businesses are getting much more responsible. You know, we are preaching to the choir on that. It's not a question of us having to drag them along screaming. They are very aware and very happy to work with us on that. And again, we have more to do, but we are continuing to share best practice, raise awareness amongst staff, you know, our colleagues here, and work with everybody, because we all need to do that. And as I say, you ask a question, you say, what are the barriers? Yeah, I mean, there are barriers. There are barriers because sometimes it's people aren't thinking. It's the kind of the easy, you go to the coffee bar, you get your takeaway coffee, and you haven't thought about what's going to happen the cuts. But as I say, we have a number of strategies, including the procurement policy, which is working to overcome them. Right, so further steps. We are looking at huge strategic areas around climate change and carbon reduction, and I know that you're not only very aware of but very supportive of that, and I appreciate that that support. But as I say, I think it's building things in so it becomes the norm. It's a bit like the way that you know, kind of there was a time way back when things around discrimination were considered to be the job role of a particular person who was the officer dealing with it, and over time we've moved to the point where it's everybody's responsibility. It's woven into the fabric of everything that we do, and I think that is becoming the case. We are asking all our staff to consider how they're doing their work. We are moving to the agile and flexible working now, and again, part of that is saying to people, kind of, what do you need around you in order to do your work, and what are the things that are not required, surplus to requirement, and possibly not the best things to be using. And I know that Chanel Busy, is that how you pronounce her surname? Busby, sorry, a service lead in procurement, is working very hard with the teams to develop this procurement strategy. She has also been talking with human resources, again, about how we can further embed that within our staff policies. And again, I know that at one of the special place scrutinies in June, it was requested to have a biannual committee meeting that actually looks at this and collates and discusses all the work that we're going through in relation to climate change. And I fully intend that to happen. I'm very supportive of that happening. So yes, we're making some progress, but there's more work to do. There always is.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sutton. And Councillor Moore, you might want to have a...
Thank you very much, Councillor Sutton, for your reply. And it is very tricky because some of these things are beyond the Council's control. The motion was very specific about activities within the Council's control, and I welcome the moves to introduce a procurement strategy which enables that to happen. The motion called for phasing out single-use plastic by the Council and its suppliers by the end of 2018. It would be very helpful to have an update on that shortly. I mean, I see that we still have milk in single-use plastic in the members' room and the committee rooms. So the attention to detail needs to reflect the bigger ambition too. And there's other points, particularly around creating definite policies for tenants and also for festivals and such like. So steps in that direction are welcome, but it would be good to see faster action, because I think some of these things are easy to develop the policy. I realise it takes longer to put them into place, but the longer we delay, the longer it will take to happen. So I wonder when we might have a further report back on this, because I think we could be going a bit quicker perhaps on some of this, but the procurement's a good start.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and you're right. Yeah, I mean, we could do more, and yes, I mean, we haven't hit the target by 2018. It was ambitious, but we have made a lot of progress. But I will talk with colleagues, and I will come back to you, and I will ensure it's on. Yeah, and I will make sure that it comes forward to a future meeting, and perhaps with some more facts and figures on it, because I do appreciate this is a bit more general and and say a kind of general overview rather than a specific. This is, you said we did type response, but I'll get that for you.
Thank you. Diane, Councillor Moore, you were asking for an update. Is that?
That seems to be going on.
It's a very helpful interim update. Thank you, Councillor Sutton.
We've noticed that you said interim update. Thank you. Okay, I think that's it now, isn't it? As we're diminishing, I think people are telling us it's the end of the evening. Thank you all for attending, and thank everybody for their contributions and everything.
Okay, thank you then.
I've just got the information that I was asked to give